Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for assembling today for what I think is a very important discussion on what is going on in Fukushima right now. Let me introduce you to our speakers today. To my far right, to your left, we have Cécile Asanuma Brice, Vice Director, North Asia Office of the National Center for Scientific Research in France. And next to her is Nanako Shimizu, Associate Professor at Asanuma University. And later on, we will have Keith Baverstok, Professor, University of Eastern Finland, coming in via Skype to join the discussions. Well, as we all know, the reason we're very interested is that 6 years on, the urgency of the still unfolding nuclear fallout from the Tohoku earthquake remains unabated, even as the collective memory of Japan is fading. So for the residents of Fukushima and for the thousands of refugees who one day hope to return home, this is something that they wake up to every day, and we want to know if there are solutions. But I think I should just hand over the microphone to our guest speakers to let you update you on the status of Fukushima. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you to come today. So today I will speak more than president of an association we called Citizen Scientists International Symposium on Radiation Protection. And this association is organizing every year from 2011 international symposium and several workshops on radio protection. And last year we organized one of these very big symposium during 4 days. We mainly spoke about the question of threshold. Why? Because we are determining some thresholds that we can reopen or not the former, I don't know if we can say already, the former evacuation zones. And so we need to have some scientific elements to know if this decision will be based on scientific truth or not. So we invited a lot of scientific epidemiologists, biologists from all over the world in Nihonmatsu, Fukushima, last year, and we have some discussion about it. And so the question, so the answer to the question, is it acceptable to reopen the evacuation zone if we are thinking as scientists? The answer was clearly no, it isn't. So we decided to write together 2 texts of recommendations and to sign it. And so those 2 texts are published in this review called Kagaku. This is Science. The name of the review is Science. This is a scientist review on this March. And the English version of the 2 recommendation texts will be published also on the site of this review, Science Review Kagaku, on the internet. So first, I just will read the 2 texts of recommendation, and after I will give the mic to my colleague, Professor Shimizu from Utsunomiya University, and after to Keith Baverstok from Finland University, and they will explain more in details why we decided to write these recommendations. So the conclusions of the last international symposium was, should radiation protection measures should be carried out in agreement with the research of scientists from relevant disciplines based on the underlying epidemiological findings. In particular, there are a number of epidemiological evidences supporting the linear non-threshold model that states that the health effects of ionizing radiation have no safety thresholds and are linearly proportional to the exposure dose, even at a cumulative dose lower than 100 millisieverts. All the radiation protection measures should presuppose this model from a precautionary standpoint. So in the first recommendation text, we have 6 main points. The first one is expansion of thyroid cancer examination and enhancement of support. So several epidemiological views conclude that the results of the Fukushima Prefectural Health Management Survey are already clearly showing the frequent occurrence of thyroid cancer. Considering the diagnostic tumor sizes and the surgery cases that resulted from the survey, the currently practiced thyroid examination is consistent with one of the objectives of the survey: early detection, early treatment. The survey should be expanded, and the support should be enhanced for people suffering from thyroid cancer and other thyroid abnormalities. The second point is about expansion of health survey. Health protection must be provided not only to the affected residents, but also to the people who are at risk of exposure to radiation, who are carrying out accident-related work, such as the nuclear plant workers and the off-site decontamination workers. So the survey of health effects should be expanded to these people in order to determine what damages are being caused by radiation exposure, whether the current measures are effective enough, and what should be done to improve the situation. The third point is the respect of the victims' rights. The immigrated ex-residents or the evacuees should not be forced to return to their hometowns. Those who wish to stay evacuated or immigrated, I mean, after six years, it's not a question of just to be refugees. Those who wish to evacuate or emigrate hereafter, or those who want to return to their hometowns, as well as those who have decided to stay in their hometowns despite the accumulating exposure dose, all of the parties should be supported so that they can build the lives they desire, all while avoiding radiation exposure as much as possible. First point is revision of risk communication, and that's a very, very important point, because maybe all this battle is not on a scientific field, but now on a communication one, and maybe that's the main problems. In order to improve the current social environment that dissuades the victims from expressing their concern about the health effects of radiation, it is necessary to revise the risk communication measures led by the central and the local administrative authorities. Measures that aim to persuade the victim of the small risk of health effect without providing sufficient evidence and impelling them to act as the authorities want should be revised. 5 is education and public information on nuclear power and radiation. School teaching materials and learning places are provided from the pro-nuclear standpoint, unilaterally stressing the safety of nuclear power plants and downplaying the risk of health effects. Instead, the standpoint of those who bear the risk, accident victims, workers, and future generations, should be taken into account fully. Last point is the role of citizens and scientists. Citizens, including scientists, researchers, and media professionals, are requested to promote an open dialogue in which each party accomplishes its original mission for the pursuit of the truth. Together, the victims and all the people involved are expected to create a living environment and public space that enable each of them to express what they really think and feel, to form a consensus, and thus to give rise to mutual trust. The second text is more on threshold issues. So over recent years, some interested parties have claimed that human exposure to low doses, that means 100 millisieverts, or of ionizing radiation, does not confer an increased risk of cancer, or that the risk is so small that it cannot be estimated. Our understanding of the risk of ionizing radiation leads us to conclude that, first, the accrued epidemiological data do not support there being a threshold of risk at 100 millisievert for the induction of cancer. The second point, most of the available evidence, together with mechanistic considerations, point to linearity of dose response at both high and low dose rates. Third point, direct measurement of risk below 100 millisievert and extrapolation from higher doses support the use of the linear dose response model for doses less than 100 millisievert and for the estimation of risks for the protection of public health after nuclear accidents. The in-work study of workers is particularly important because the mode of exposure is similar to that which will be experienced by returning evacuees. It provides important information in relation to the risks in the dose range 0 to 100 milligrams. Over this range, the risk is higher, but not significantly so, than the overall estimate of 0.48 per gram. This estimate is not influenced by the slope at higher doses. The paper states in works that provides supporting evidence for a positive association between radiation dose and all cancer other than leukemia, even if less precise, when analyses are restricted to data for the 0 to 100 milligrams range. So this position is consistent with three reports: the 2000 report of the United Nations Scientific Committee of the effects of ionizing radiation from skier, subsequently endorsed in their 2012 white paper. The 206 BR7 report from the US National Academy of Science and the 2012 analysis of the Japanese bomb survivor data. 3 is the World Health Organization report of 2013 on the Fukushima accident. We conclude that a recommended reference level of 20 millisievert per year for returning evacuees from areas adjacent to the Fukushima Daiichi Daiichi accident will entail an increased lifetime risk of cancer, particularly for those exposed as children. Also signed this agreement, in though there is scientists from all over the world, 15 of scientists, from Finland, like Professor Baverstok, also from Ukraine, from Australia, from Germany, Switzerland, France, and so on. So I was a little long, so I want to let the place to Professor Shimizu.
Thank you. My name is Nanako Shimizu. I'm from Utsunomiya University. I specialize in international law, international organization studies. I was one of the speakers in the International Symposium on Radiation Protection, which was held in Nihonmatsu City in Fukushima. This is why the declaration is called Nihonmatsu Declaration. And I would like to tell you why we, the members of this symposium, decided to publicize these two documents today. Please look at the handouts. I will show you the same slides on the screen. The first point is because recently, especially since last summer, we started to hear a worrisome news about scaling down the thyroid ultrasound examination for all the children and young adults in Fukushima who were under age 18 at the time of accident. This is the survey funded by national government and has been conducted by Fukushima prefectural government with the help of Fukushima Medical University. For example, such a news, notable example of such news came from local newspaper Fukushima Minyu in August. Sorry, in your handout it says July, but in August 8th, in 2016, Dr. Hokuto Hoshi, he's chairperson of the Fukushima Prefecture's committee overseeing the thyroid examination, made comments that we should review this ultrasound examination. And in editorial of this local newspaper, they say we should think about scaling down because there are not only advantage but also disadvantage for the children. Another recommendation came from International Expert Symposium, which was held in September last year, and the recommendation was submitted to Governor of Fukushima, as the picture shows, in December last year. And the recommendation also says that we should establish another expert working group, although there's one overseeing committee set up by Fukushima Prefecture already existed, but we should establish another expert working group to review this ultrasound examination. And in this recommendation then concludes that the thyroid disorders found so far are not the results of radiation, but because of over diagnosis or screening effects. That's what they are saying. But still, how we analyze the results of this thyroid ultrasound examination became a subject of a heated debate, not only among the experts, but also among the citizens. Fukushima Prefecture and Fukushima Medical University keep saying that these thyroid cancer found are not the results of radiation. These are some of their arguments. They say they can find same trends in less affected areas. Ministry of Environment conducted after the accident for the purpose of comparing the data with Fukushima ones. They collected screening data in 3 less affected areas. And when they compared the two data, they show the same trend. So that's the conclusion. But if you look at the number of participants in the screening, in 3 cities are only 4,300. In Fukushima case, there are more than 300,000 children data. So statistically speaking, we cannot compare these two quite different number and draw any accurate conclusion. So I believe this argument is a bit weak. And the second argument they make is majority of thyroid cancer patients must be found among the group age under 5 at the time of the accident. These are the graphs. On your right side, this is Fukushima data from 2011 to 2014, and the majority of the cancer patients are teenagers, as you can see. On your left, this is Chernobyl data, and the majority of the patients are under age 5. And they compare these two, and distributions are so different, so we cannot conclude that the Fukushima cancer cases are not because of radiation. But this is another quite misleading argument which has been criticized so far, because this is an argument comparing an apple with an orange. Because if you look at Fukushima data, it only 4 years time range, and teenagers are majority. But the Chernobyl data, this is 17-year time range. And the outbreak of thyroid cancer under age 5 at the time of accident occurred 5 to 10 years after the accident. So we cannot say that to compare these totally different data and conclude that this is not because of the accident, as you can see. But still, there are some people say this is screening effect, overdiagnosis, or too early to develop, because usually thyroid cancer develops so slowly. However, quite unfortunately, the accumulating data in Fukushima shows us a different direction, because the thyroid examination targeting 318,000 Fukushima children and young adults under 18 in 2011, as I said. But this examination is not compulsory. This is voluntary examination. So actual participation rate is 81.7%. About 300,000 participated in the first round examination from 2011 to 14. And surprisingly, more than 100 cases, actually 116 cases of thyroid cancer had been detected. This is much larger number than expected, because usually childhood thyroid cancer is about 1 per million. So this is much larger number. But many people, the Fukushima Prefecture and Medical University say this is because screening effect, we use very high sensitive equipment, that's the reason. If we take that standpoint, if so, this is only screening effect, then the second round, there will be no thyroid cancer, because if all the cancer has been detected and they are using very sensitive equipment, there will be no thyroid cancer be found in the second round, because as they say, if we believe in what they say, the thyroid cancer developed very slowly, so it won't be found only 2 or 3 years after the first round. But unfortunately, until as of December 2016, 69 cases of another cancer has been found, and the annoying number is first round assessment classification of these 69 patients were quite good. A1, no nodules, no cysts, or A2, very smaller ones. So their conditions were very good only 2 or 3 years ago. But suddenly, after 2 or 3 years after, it was detected that they have cancer. And these are the operation cases of Fukushima evaluation from August 2012 to March 2016. This is the data from Dr. Suzuki, Shinichi Suzuki of Fukushima Medical University. According to him, 125 thyroid cancers has been operated at Fukushima Medical University. And 3 of them reached M1 stage, very serious stage. The cancer has spread to other parts of the body, 3 of them. And 97, more than 77% of them, in one stage, the cancer has spread to nearby lymph nodes. So we can hardly say these are overdiagnosis, as you can see. And if we look at these worrisome numbers from Fukushima, I have to point out the second point, the disparities of national support in contaminated area outside of Fukushima. This is the map of total cesium fallouts on the ground, July 27, 2011. As you can see, the radioactive materials didn't stop at the prefectural border, but spread all over Kanto and Tohoku area. But there is no designated evacuation zones, effective decontamination, nor health survey funded by the national budget outside the Fukushima Prefecture, including Tochigi Prefecture, western neighbor of Fukushima, highly radiated, contaminated, where I come from. because there's no help from the government, a private fund was established September last year to help children who were diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And this fund accepts applications not only from Fukushima, but also outside of Fukushima, these surrounding contaminated areas. And until February this year, they have supplied these financial support to the applicants. And could you see the number of serious patients and below? Fukushima case, 41 children received financial support, and 2 out of 41 had serious patients. Cancer moved to other parts of the body. But other areas outside of Fukushima, there are only 12, but 5 of them are in the serious cases. So the number is quite limited, but we may suppose that in Fukushima case, Fukushima survey contribute to early detection and early treatment, so number of serious patients might low. But patients outside of Fukushima, they do not have any nationally funded examination, so their detection came late, in a much later stage, so their symptoms get more serious than the children in Fukushima. The last point I want to make is the point made by Cecile-san just now, lifting evacuation order with 20 mil seabelt per year standard. Almost 70% of evacuation zone, the evacuation orders had been lifted. And evacuees have no choice but to go back to their hometown with anxiety of radiation because of these mounting numbers of cancer now reported, or to stay where they are now but without any financial support. And evacuees, this is the research from Dr. Tsujiuchi, who was also one of the speakers in our international symposium last year. According to his recent study, evacuees with PTSD increasing up to more than 10%, 46.4% compared to last year. And he assumes that this is because the lifting of evacuation order. This is his argument. So now, nuclear accident and its damage is not only medical issue, but becomes socio-political issue. What kind of policy government will choose may affect the health risk and the anxiety of people. And when I interview evacuees or people who went back to Fukushima or people who living in highly contaminated area in Chiba or Tochigi or surrounding country area, they say we cannot talk freely about anxiety over radiation because we may invoke anxiety in other people's minds, or we will be criticized by the people. Are you inflicting harmful rumors? I believe it's actual damage, not harmful rumors, but harmful rumors, and you may damage the local industries, or those harassment may occur to them. So we cannot talk freely about our anxiety over radiation. So as we can see, these policies endangering the right to health, which is enshrined in international bills of human rights. Japan is a contracting party to this international treaty, so violating the right to health and limiting the choice to avoid radiation. Thank you very much for your attention. And Dr. Baverstok, are you with us now?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Thank you for waiting patiently. It's your turn, so could you start your presentation? I will show your slides
Yes, please.
To the public.
So if you show the first slide, which
this is the one.
Says, in 2007, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. Is that slide there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The first point that I want to make is that it is relatively recently that it's been claimed that there is a threshold, or at least an absence of risk below 100 millisievert. Because in this report in 2007, if you click again, you'll get a quotation from the report, and it states there that the LNT, the linear no threshold model, is supported by the information up to that time. So this has been discussed numerous times in scientific symposia, and this was, in my experience, the conclusion that was reached on every occasion. So if we look at the information that has been obtained, slide, in the past 10 years from 10 studies, all with information in the range of 0 to 100 millisieverts. If you press again, you'll see the line of demarcation. It's pretty scattered, but that is because some studies are weaker than others, and this is a very difficult area to do epidemiology in. I mean, the risk of cancer is quite large, 25% fatality of cancer risk lifetime in Japan. And so to see something against that background is quite difficult. Nevertheless, if we take the next slide, which is the International Nuclear Worker Study, INWORKS, we see a very clear progression of risk with increasing dose. It intersects at 1,000 millisieverts at 1.5. So that means that the risk of exposure to 1 sievert is 50% of your risk of spontaneous cancer, and as I said, that's 25%. So that means that your risk of cancer has gone up for exposure to 1 sievert from 25% to 37.5%. Or if we take the 100 millisievert line, then if you click again, what you will have is an increase in risk from 25% lifetime, this is 25% of fatal cancer, to 26.5%. But this is for adults, and they're relatively insensitive. So if we go to the next slide, this same National Academy report that I referred to has shown the distribution between two genders, male and female, and the difference with age. And you can see the INWORKS age range, roughly 20 to 65, with a pink block. And you can see that for ages less than 30, the risks are significantly above the risk for adults. So if we look at a situation where a normal population is living, there are quite a proportion of the population that are at higher risk than that measured by the INWORKS study. So the INWORKS study definitely eliminates the possibility of a threshold at 100 millisieverts. Statistically, when you analyze it, that's what the data show. If we go to the next slide, we can see results of a study in Australia, 680,000 adolescents exposed to computed tomography or CT scans. And typically a CT scan has an average dose of around 4.5 millisieverts, so really very low compared to the 100 millisieverts. And you can see there that the risk above this is called the incidence rate ratio, IRR, and the risk 1.2 for a single scan of roughly 4.5 millisievert. So this is really quite a significant risk at a low dose, and it definitely establishes the fact that there is risk below 100 millisievert. Now, these two studies are not quite comparable because the INWORKS study was for the mortality of the population, so it's measured at the end of their life, and this is for the incidence, so it's the situation at diagnosis. And so these figures are likely to increase over the coming years and make this even more significant. So for the purposes of protecting public health, we have to conclude that there is, you probably pick these every time, there is no threshold at 100 millisieverts. So this claim is totally false, and the risk per millisievert, shall we say, is the same across the whole range up to 2 sieverts, from 0 dose up to 2 sieverts. We can apply the same risk per millisievert. So there is no excuse for not being able to compute what the risk to individuals are. We could do that. The risk for children can be up to 7 times that for adults. So children are specifically at risk. For settlements where the external dose was 20 millisieverts in 2017, so this year, it may take some 20 years before the dose rate falls to what is the internationally agreed public dose limit of 1 millisievert. So this temporary, what's called reference dose limit, emergency dose limit, is 20 times higher than the internationally agreed public dose limit. And it will take roughly 20 years. It's difficult to estimate because this is concerned with the burial of the cesium into the soil, which provides some screening. Those people returning under this adopted reference level of 20 millisieverts will incur an increased lifetime risk of cancer, and this is especially the case for children. And so it is really, in my view, a human rights issue that people should understand what the risk is before they make the decision whether to return to their homes or not. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that was a very informative presentation, but I think we should race through some questions. I could see that many people already have some in mind, so can we take it to the floor? Working journalists first. Can we take questions now? Oh, and please give your affiliation at the microphone, please.
My name is Hiroki Fujita, a freelance journalist affiliated with the Yukon Fuji. And I'm also a journalist member of the Scientists for Accurate Radiation Information based in America. And one of the leading here is Wade Allison, the Professor Emeritus of Oxford University, who wrote the Radiation Reason. And I have constantly, opportunity to expose myself to the debate among those, scientists who support less than 100 millisievert is not hazardous to human health, but rather it's even beneficial, like a homeostasis effect to human health. So, I respect your finding and your conclusion, but what is called the ALALA, as low as reasonably achievable, the less the better kind of approach might cause other psychological frustration.
I'm sorry, do you have a question?
My
please?
question is,
Yes.
my question is, so it's a balance, if we scare too much about the...
excuse me, question please.
My question is, if we scare too much about the hazardous effects of the radiation, like radiophobia, it's more damage causing than worrying about the low dose radiation too much.
I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yes, that's the question.
That's not a question, that's an affirmation. That's a comment.
So you're saying, do you agree or disagree? Okay, let's just go. Please, we don't have much time, so let's just go.
Maybe Keith wants to say something about it?
Yes, I think perhaps I should answer this question. Wade Allison's arguments are extremely weak. You have just seen data published in peer-reviewed journals of large epidemiological studies. Wade Allison has no answers to this. I have personally suggested to him that we debate these very different views we have. He believes that 1 gray per month would be an acceptable dose for the public instead of 1 milligray per year. This is extreme, and frankly, I tell you, it's nonsense. And I've offered to debate this with him on 2 occasions. He has declined to do so. I mean, he sticks with this view, but it's wrong. It's completely wrong, and it's completely against the evidence that we have. And we have to go with the evidence. Now, there is a psychological aspect to this problem, but that is really the fact that the truth is not being told a lot of the time. And the truth is not being told by Mr. Allison about the risks of ionizing radiation. He is not telling you the truth. And that, of course, if you get this kind of disagreement, people say, well, should I believe him or should I believe him? And they don't know how to make up their minds. And of course, this is psychologically stressful. So actually, Allison and his like, and that includes Professor Jerry Thomas as well, these people are fueling the psychosocial effect, not reducing it. So I think you should really just forget about him and look at the data. I mean, if you have a copy of the declaration, all the references are there. They are all free to consult over the internet. I mean, you can go to the journal and you can read the reference. Judge for yourself what the evidence says.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, can you wait to be picked? But go ahead. Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. Moderator has to do that.
Yeah, okay. I'm Yuri Kageyama with the Associated Press. If we can try to tell these people that it's not overdiagnosis, and it's already 184 people out of 300,000, but they keep saying it's overdiagnosis, and then they said this is within expectation, what would be the threshold or a rough number of these cases turning up in subsequent years that will be beyond any reasonable doubt that it is not overdiagnosis? I've tried to ask this question to the university and they never answer. And then is that why they want to reduce the stop doing the screening, which is what you said there's a, I felt that as well, that they want to start to shrink the tests, not do them as much. Can you talk about that and why that is, and what the dangers could be? And also, if it is a human rights issue, and the government of Japan is obviously not taking your scientific data, that the linear non-threshold, that's just already gone out the window. If they're saying 20 millisieverts is safe, when they used to tell us it was 1, they've changed all the rules on us. And I know many scientists like yourselves are trying to point this out, but what is the action that we can take? The people of Fukushima are being silenced. The government is, Germany is taking a different view, but the government of Japan says it's safe, and the people the media is not saying anything. I mean, look at the turnout to this thing.
We are saying something today. And first, what I want to say that all the data show that there is no threshold. That's what we want to say. And we can see in the history, each time we had an accident, the threshold raising up. So maybe the problem of the threshold is not to take care of population or protect somebody at all. It's just for for me, because I am not epidemiologist, so I'm urban sociologist, so I'm dealing with housing policy and so on. But about Fukushima, that's linked, isn't it? If you decide politically to refuge your population, you have to know, you have to make a judgment if it is, if you will push your population in danger or not. So you have to make some judgment. But now, just about the threshold, I just want to leave Keith's answer more precisely.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's the political circumstances that are causing people to claim against the evidence that there is a threshold. I mean, I don't know what we can do about that, but what we can do is we can invite people like Alison, Thomas, these people that believe that we're wrong, to look at the evidence that is listed and cited in the declaration and come back to us with their arguments as to why we're wrong. That's the way we do science. If they can't do that, then they should accept that they're wrong. So it's rather clear for the Japanese authorities to ask for this issue to be settled at a scientific level. We could hold a meeting, or we could do it by writing to each other, or whichever way we do it, writing papers. But it can be settled. It can be settled now. Either their arguments work and we're wrong, or we're right and they're wrong. They can't both be right.
Okay.
Thank you. One last comment from myself. I ask you, the journalists, as well as we, the researchers and journalists, should speak on behalf of the people who cannot speak up because they fear to be harassed or bullied, because when they say that 100 millisievert safety theory is wrong or they are radiated, they cannot express their anxiety freely, not only in Fukushima but also in surrounding area, because there are school bullying, as you know, and harassment towards them. So it is our role, the researchers and the journalists, to not shut up but keep speaking up. And we have sent these two documents to Ministry of Environment, which is responsible for health survey, and to the government of Fukushima prefectural government. So we ask them to pay attention to our argument. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Ikubo. I'm an associate member. And I have two specific questions. One is, how many nuclear power plants are there in the world acting, and how many are there nuclear plants being constructed? That's the first question. Second question is, I have heard the seriousness of the issue, but what are some of the high priority items or the concerns or issues we need to come up with solutions? If you could mention two or three specific issues. Issues means that you've got to come up with a solution over the Fukushima situation. If you could mention two or three of them.
So maybe we will speak one by one about it.
We're running out of time, so please let's keep. And first, journalists first. So if any more journalists want questions, we're not opening it to the floor just yet. So actually, sorry, you were not. Okay.
Well, I could add.
Keith, just one moment. In 1 minute. First, just one nuclear plant. When just one nuclear plant crash, it's. Yeah, but just one is sufficient to have a world disaster. So that's not like a car accident. So I mean, we need to take care of what we are saying about it. One more time, I know that communication is really invested in this problem, and we are saying what we want, but we cannot in reality. And this is very, very important because that's touched to a problem of responsibility. of the administration. When we are an administrator, you have a very big responsibility. And so, do I administrators, have the right to bring all the interests of others people into play? That's what that means. So the administration and a government have to protect his population. It is his role, not to put it in danger. And now it's not sufficient.
Okay, please go. Please speak.
Yes, you asked how many nuclear reactors there are worldwide. I believe it's around 400, 450. I don't have the exact figure, but you can get that from the International Atomic Energy Agency. These reactors are being closed down now faster than new ones are being opened. So the number of nuclear reactors will be decreasing in the future. But the problem is that the reactors that exist are getting older, and the older they get, the more likely they are to have accidents, the more likely they are to fail. So we don't have actually a very bright outlook, but the numbers are reducing overall, and the main builder of nuclear reactors is China. What are the things that we can do? Well, of course, we can operate them at a safety level. I mean, this accident in Fukushima, there were many things that were wrong at the time the accident occurred. And although it was caused to some extent by the tsunami, there were even many factors, like there were fuel rods on the roof that needed to be kept underwater, and the containment was cracked and water was getting out. The pumps that would drive the emergency cooling were on the ground floor and were knocked out by the tsunami. There was no prevention for hydrogen explosions. That is standard in most cases. So this accident needn't have been nearly as bad as it was had the proper precautions been taken in the first place. And that will probably apply to any other future accident. So those are the things that can be done. And it is time that the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, really enforced operators to be operating in the safest possible way.
Thank you. Please go to the next.
Okay. If you have a question, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a journalist. Oh, okay. But if you're working press, associate's fine, but you have to be working press, yeah. Okay.
I'm working for a company called Heinz that decommissions nuclear power plants in Germany. So we are supervising that no radiation is set free. So I'm totally convinced that there is no threshold level. So radiation is very dangerous for the human cells, and the question is, we had here actually Jablokov and Clausen and other medical doctors. They reported that the greater the risk is for the blood vessels. We are focusing on cancer, but the blood vessels are such which are most damaged, and the liquidators in Chernobyl most of them died of heart attack, strokes, etc. So what is the scientific basis for this? Do we have numbers, and how difficult, and I think it's very difficult to prove that this stroke is caused by radiation and not by natural causes? Thank you.
Can I ask you to answer, Keith?
Yeah. Well, the problem is in the sense that these diseases, strokes and heart disease, they're not registered in the same way that cancer is. So it's much more difficult to study them. But there are studies in the former Soviet Union, in Russia and in Belarus, where liquidators are being looked at. Now, typically they did get higher doses than the population, because they were working on the site, and the effects to cause these diseases, we don't understand at a very, very good molecular level. Perhaps we understand cancer rather better. So there are studies. There is definitely an association between these diseases and radiation exposure. It does seem that it also occurs at lower doses, but again, this heart disease is even more prevalent than is cancer. So it's again difficult epidemiologically, but we are moving in that direction. Information is being obtained from liquidators, and presumably also there will be workers in Japan who have had quite high doses, and therefore they could be studied as well. But I would say that probably my estimate is that the risk of all disease associated with exposure to radiation is about double that of the risk for cancer.
Any comments to add to that? Okay. Is that all the questions we have from the floor? We could open it up, I guess, the conversation, but otherwise, I just have a couple of questions. I understand that the radiation is not necessarily within the sphere of influence of some organization like WHO, but when you have what some scientists say is a surge in the incidence of various diseases and thyroid cancer, is that not a concern outside of Japan? Are there any other organizations that are looking into the epidemiological impact of low dosage radiation?
Yes, well, of course, the WHO has been involved in assessment of the health effects from Fukushima and from Chernobyl. To a certain extent, WHO does not work independently of other UN agencies, and this is a big problem. There seems to be more kind of family loyalty than there is loyalty to the general population, if I may put it that way. But yes, plenty of people have been looking. I mean, there has been a huge amount of research in universities and in other organizations, the European Commission, etc., into the thyroid issue after Chernobyl. And there's a great deal of interest, of course, in the situation in Fukushima. And when we get the results, the complete results of the 2 rounds of survey, we will be able to make a much better judgment than we can at the moment, because I believe the data are not complete. But there are things definitely to be explained there, as Dr. Shimizu said. There is an unexpected result, and we don't know at the moment how to explain it. So we do need further work on that.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if you have any time if individual journalists want to come and ask you a question afterwards, but I think we'll close this press conference. Thank you very much to the 3 of you. Invaluable information, gave us further insights, I think, into the situation in Fukushima. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.